And last but not least, I'd like to give a special thanks to Mr. Commissioner Sias for hosting such a great event like this that is needed by the community. And just to give you all some information on who I am, my name is William Antoine McClain, Jr. I'm a ninth grade student at the Early College Academy at Lucy C. Lane Comprehensive High School. I've been born and reared in South Augusta in Georgetown my entire life. And throughout my life, I've heard many outlandish claims such as the new generations are soft. The new generations don't understand respect.
That's right.
Also, I've heard other claims such as, all my grandma does is nag us. Why can't Mr. Rogers allow us to do us? And I understand those claims fully as well. However, every time I hear those claims, or I see those claims in action, for example, a kid disobeying an elder, or an elder continuing to expand on a point that the kid should not do, I cannot understand a huge disconnect in other generations. And that's what I've come here to speak with you all about, eliminating the gap. Eliminating the gap. And dealing with that gap, I did not come here to take a side, but I came here to fix a problem that needs to be solved for a group, a community, a region, a city, a nation, a world, a race, and mankind itself.
Come on now.
And so every human being is born with the instinct to follow someone older than them. That's why many students choose not to follow someone the same age as them or younger than them, but they're quicker to look up to, idolize, and model themselves after someone older than them. That older person could be a family member, a friend, or a stranger. But the first persons that they look up to are their parents. However, sometimes that parent doesn't make time for the child. They don't reach out for that bond with the child. Most of all, they don't sit down and communicate with the child. They don't sit there and see why does the child perform these actions. And maybe the child doesn't want to sit down and see why their parent continues to point out something that they shouldn't do. And what happens is the parent and the child, they get to this crossroad. The child goes one way while the parent goes the other. It's almost like a tree's branches. If the branches of a tree did not come together, you have two or multiple smaller trees that are weaker apart. But when they're connected, you create such a strong trunk that is impossible to mow over. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these branches and create this trunk that is impenetrable. And so our first problem that we have is having patience. Many people say that they'll never be able to possess the trait of having patience. And many say that I'll never be able to have patience, forget about it. I understand that. But when it comes to that job, you'll sit down. When it comes to that money, you'll sit down. When it comes to waiting in that grocery line for your food, you'll sit down. When it comes to paying that light bill, you'll sit down. When it comes to paying that water bill, you'll sit down. Just whenever it comes to the necessity, you'll sit down. And that's how you need to think of your relationship with the next generation. That could be for your child, your niece, your nephew, your cousin, as a necessity, because they're the future. You want the future to be successful. You want the future to be better than you. You want the future to invest into the next generation. But how can you expect that when you don't invest into the future yourself? Don't lie to them and tell them that I'm too tired, I don't have time. Because you can find time for the other things, right? You can have patience for the necessities, right? But you can't make time to create that connection with the child. And you can just create that patience by sitting down together, being in the same vicinity as each other, taking them out to eat lunch, breakfast, dinner. Most of all, sit down and communicate with them and being their listener and not their speaker. Because God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Many of us tend to be that speaker more than that listener that they need. And that leads me to my next point, communication. Many of us fail at effective communication. And when I say effective communication, I mean the receiving, the interpreting, and the continuation of listening to that person that's venting or talking to you. Many of us receive that message, we interpret it, we create our own statement, and we interrupt them. Or we wait until they're done speaking, and we just have that statement in our mind, and we block out everything else that they're saying. That's a problem. And so if Marcus is telling you that he's being bullied, I need you to grab on to the bullying statement, receive it, interpret it, and continue to listen. I don't need you to grab onto the bullying statement, create your own opinion, then interrupt him while he's saying that he's being bullied. I need you to continue to listen to him. And once you establish this effective communication, which you can do by sitting together, watching TV together, doing tasks together, it creates this bond. That person knows that you care about their well-being. And once, what comes with the bond is trust, love, and relatability. And this isn't just for creating that bond with the next generation. This is also for friendships. This is also for relationships. This is also for marriages. That effective communication, it creates that bond, and those similarities are uncovered, which expands that bond. Because many of our bonds expand because we know we have something in common with each other. And once you create that effective communication, you're able to connect with the next generation and pass on things. And so my third point is invest. And I mean invest as in the verb, not investment as in the noun. When I say invest, I say communication and having patience is our number one and number two problems, because that's how morals, that's how habits, that's how traditions, that's how customs, that's how attitudes are passed on. If you don't create that connection, you can't pass on anything. And I'm be honest with you all might be mad at me when I say this, but you all created the world that we live in. And you all have to accept it. Whether good or bad, you all did. You all did it. You all invested time into the generation that leads the world right now. You all did that, whether good or bad. You may feel that you did great because your child is doing good, your family is doing good, everyone in your family is doing good. But have you seen that teenager, you seen that child, you seen that adolescent smoke that joint, you seen them fight, you seen them cursing, and you just turned a blind eye to it because it didn't affect you? You contributed in a negative way. I just want you to know that. We all contributed in a negative way. And we have to accept the fact. And then what you have to do is, like I said, build that bond with the next generation so you can invest into them. It's almost like a farmer and his crops. What happens is he has to plow the ground. Well, first he has to take up the harvest of the season of the season's crops, and then once he takes up the harvest, he begins to plow the ground. He begins to invest time. He begins to invest time into the ground and place the seeds at the right places and water the new crops. But if he doesn't do that, he doesn't invest the time back into them, that season's crops will not be as fruitful as the prior season's crops. So you have to spend time, you have to invest the same amount if you want them to be productive, you want them to be fruitful. Teach your son what a 401k is. Show your daughter how to write a check. Show them how to pay the bills. Just teach them and invest time and effort into them, and then they will produce fruitfully. And so in conclusion, I would love for this problem to be solved. And I feel this is a problem that plagues our communities, our regions, our cities, our groups, the entire nation, this entire world. They have to deal with this problem of eliminating the gap between generations. And I would love to see South Augusta advance. I really would love to. I want to see it advance in agriculture. I want to see it advance in businesses. I want to see Deansbridge Road look like Washington Road. Come on. I understand businesses are coming into Augusta, but there's this disproportion to where West and North Augusta, and then South Augusta and East Augusta are down here. I want that disproportion to be fixed. Yeah. Yes. But we have to confront our smallest as in circumstance, but biggest as in size problem, and that's eliminating the gap between the younger and older generations. Because we can't move together as this one smooth piece of glass when we have cracks in it. So once we come together, and once we bond together, we'll be able to move as one cohort, and that's together. And this message may not have been for you today. You may have felt my family's doing good, my children are doing great, I did everything I could for them. But if you intend to help yourself, to help the next generation, help others' lives, I need you to keep this message in the back of your heart and in the back of your mind. Because you're going to face the conflict, you're going to have to confront, you're going to have to tackle, you're going to have to defeat the problem of eliminating the gap between our generations, to pass on our traditions, to pass on our customs, to pass on our morals. And I thank you all for being such a great audience. And last but not least, Mom, Ms. Valerie Frazier, can you please stand up? You have been such a great mother to me. You've done everything that you can do, and I dedicate this speech to you. I dedicate this speech to you.